What is the power of feeling rich before you are? And why is this idea the hidden force that has shaped every self-made success story long before money ever arrived in the physical world? And in this video, you will discover how this single inner shift can unlock clarity, confidence, and financial transformation faster than effort alone ever could. Because you will finally understand how wealth begins as a state of being rather than an external achievement. This is where it begins, with the realization that feeling rich is not about pretending, but about activating the emotional chemistry that turns impossibilities into unfolding opportunities. This is how it unfolds, as you learn how inner wealth changes your decisions, your posture, and the subtle signals you send into the world. This is why it matters, because when you feel wealthy, you stop acting from fear and start moving from certainty. This is where truth breaks through, revealing that your financial future is shaped by the identity you embody long before the results materialize. This is the turning point, where the internal narrative becomes more powerful than your current circumstances. This is where the shift occurs, as emotional richness rewires your assumptions, dissolving scarcity patterns that kept repeating year after year. This is where illusion fades, showing that external conditions were never the true cause of stagnation, but reflections of what you repeatedly felt to be true about yourself. This is the moment everything expands, because the wealth state you activate internally begins to call experiences that match its frequency. This is how the layers peel back, clarifying why some people rise effortlessly while others remain trapped in the same cycles. This is the spark that ignites change. When you finally allow yourself to feel deserving, capable, and ready before any physical evidence arrives, this is where a new identity forms, shaped not by your past, but by the future you are committed to inhabiting now. This is how momentum builds, with small internal shifts that snowball into new behaviors and new results. This is where resistance dissolves, because feeling rich removes the desperation that blocks opportunities. This is where alignment happens, as your thoughts, emotions, and actions finally synchronize toward one direction. This is how clarity emerges, giving you the confidence to make choices that only a wealthy version of you would make. This is where your inner world reorders, pushing old beliefs aside and replacing them with expansive assumptions. This is the quiet revolution, where you stop chasing wealth and start embodying it. This is how transformation takes root, as feeling rich becomes a natural, continuous state rather than a fleeting moment. This is where your new story begins, with an inner richness that shapes your destiny long before the numbers in your account catch up. Can you imagine what would happen if you understood that feeling wealthy is not an emotional luxury, but the very blueprint your mind uses to construct your financial reality? And in this video, you will see how this emotional architecture becomes the foundation upon which every opportunity, every decision, and every breakthrough is built, long before it becomes visible to anyone else. This is where the next layer unfolds, because emotional wealth acts as the internal map guiding you toward choices aligned with abundance rather than survival. This is how clarity sharpens, as feeling rich trains your mind to look for possibilities instead of problems. This is where identity shifts, turning you into someone who naturally expects good outcomes and therefore attracts them. This is why emotional atmosphere matters, because your inner world sets the tone for the results that follow. This is where assumptions gather power, shaping the quiet beliefs that determine whether you leap forward or hold yourself back. This is where your inner compass recalibrates, making wealthy decisions feel natural instead of risky. This is the moment the fog clears, revealing that every financial turnaround begins with an upgrade in self-perception. This is where emotional repetition becomes transformation, as consistent feelings of wealth slowly rewrite old scarcity pathways. This is how the shift deepens, creating a sense of inner stability that is no longer dependent on external conditions. This is where fear loses its authority, because feeling rich dissolves the emotional charge that keeps you hesitating. This is where confidence grows roots, grounding you in a new version of yourself that feels secure even before the results manifest. This is how energy rearranges, aligning your actions with the identity you've been emotionally rehearsing. This is the quiet advantage, because people who feel wealthy communicate, negotiate, and move through the world with a different presence. This is where circumstances begin to follow, because your emotional state becomes the instruction your reality obeys. This is how internal richness becomes external proof, shaping opportunities that match the frequency you've been living internally. This is where your perception sharpens, teaching you to see doors that your old self never noticed. This is the point of no return, where emotional wealth becomes your default setting rather than a temporary practice. This is how transformation becomes inevitable, because the emotional blueprint you cultivate today becomes the financial reality you step into tomorrow. Now consider this. What if your brain is already wired to respond to imagined wealth with the same neural intensity as real financial experiences? And in this video, you will understand how this biological truth allows you to activate confidence, clarity, and opportunity long before money physically appears, giving you the power to shape your financial destiny from the inside out. This is where the inner mechanics reveal themselves, because your brain cannot distinguish between vividly felt imagination and lived reality. This is how the bridge is built, as emotional rehearsal creates new neural pathways that support wealthy thinking. This is where biology and manifestation meet, showing that feeling rich is not fantasy, but a neurological training process. This is where momentum takes form, because your body begins to regulate itself according to the emotional state you practice most. This is where emotional consistency becomes alignment, ensuring that your inner world no longer contradicts your goals. This is the moment everything gains structure, when your nervous system starts treating wealth as familiar rather than distant. This is how powerful the shift becomes, because familiarity dissolves doubt faster than affirmations ever could. This is where subtle transformations begin, influencing your posture, tone, and level of certainty without conscious effort. This is where opportunity perception changes, because a mind trained in wealth notices possibilities a scarcity mind would overlook. This is how decision-making elevates, guiding you to choices that move your life forward with precision rather than survival instinct. This is where inner safety rewrites your patterns, removing the emotional urgency that leads to self-sabotage. This is where your energy becomes magnetic, drawing people, resources, and pathways that align with your new internal reality. This is how doubt loses its foundation, crumbling under the weight of consistent emotional evidence. This is where your internal narrative matures, shifting from hope to expectation. This is the quiet evolution, where small emotional habits start shaping large external results. This is where brain chemistry works in your favor, as dopamine, confidence, and clarity form a new inner cycle of abundance. This is how embodiment becomes effortless, because the feeling of wealth becomes second nature rather than a forced practice. This is where your future self becomes your present identity, shaping your financial path with every assumption you choose to feel now. Picture for a moment what your life would look like if you finally understood that scarcity is not a financial condition, but an identity you unconsciously inherited. And in this video, you will see how releasing that identity frees your mind, your emotions, and your financial decisions, so you can create wealth from a place of inner security rather than chronic fear. This is where the hidden cage becomes visible, because scarcity reveals itself not through money, but through the assumptions you hold about what is possible for you. This is how the cracks begin to show, as you start noticing the automatic thoughts that keep pulling you toward limitation. This is where truth steps forward, reminding you that scarcity is a learned habit, not an eternal destiny. This is where illusion begins to shatter, because the identity you've carried for years was built on old stories, not current potential. This is where emotional liberation starts, as you detach from the beliefs that once felt like unquestionable fact. This is the moment your self-perception shifts, showing you that wealth is impossible to build when your identity is fighting against it. This is where internal conflict quiets down, because you stop trying to create abundance while secretly expecting failure. This is how awareness becomes transformation, as the patterns you once accepted begin to lose their authority over your decisions. This is where the scarcity narrative dissolves, making room for a more expansive version of yourself. This is where emotional roots are exposed, revealing that scarcity was never about money, but about how safe you felt being powerful. This is the point where courage forms, giving you permission to step into an identity that feels deserving of wealth. This is how new assumptions take over, reshaping the baseline thoughts that guide your daily choices. This is where doubt weakens, because the person you are becoming no longer resonates with the old story. This is how your emotional ceiling lifts, expanding what you believe is possible for your life. This is where inner brilliance is reclaimed, as you recognize the wealth of insight, creativity, and potential you've carried all along. This is how freedom feels, when you finally stop measuring your worth by your current resources. This is where the wealthy identity begins to rise, forming a new emotional foundation that your external world will soon mirror. Suppose you discover that feeling rich is not a daydream or a mindset trick, but a living frequency that your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors begin to tune themselves to. And in this video, you will learn how embodying this frequency transforms the way you perceive opportunities, respond to challenges, and magnetize financial breakthroughs with a level of ease that once felt unreachable. This is where the vibration comes into focus, because wealth begins as an energetic posture long before it becomes a physical result. This is how resonance forms as your emotional state starts attracting experiences that match its tone. This is where subtle alignment happens, guiding your life towards circumstances that feel calibrated to abundance. This is where the invisible becomes practical, revealing how your dominant feeling state shapes your day-to-day decisions. This is where emotional harmony builds momentum, because consistency in feeling rich amplifies clarity and dissolves hesitation. This is the moment your internal frequency stabilizes, teaching your body to relax into wealth rather than brace for lack. This is how your reality begins responding, shifting in ways that mirror the richness you've been cultivating inside. This is where inner certainty takes root, giving you the calm confidence that wealth is not something you chase, but something you align with. This is where opportunities accelerate, because a wealthy frequency sharpens your ability to spot what others overlook. This is how the atmosphere around you changes, as your presence begins to reflect assurance instead of scarcity. This is where synchronicities multiply, because energy that is steady and clear draws matching events with precision. This is where emotional refinement deepens, allowing you to maintain your frequency even when circumstances challenge you. This is how stability becomes power, anchoring you in a state that is no longer shaken by temporary setbacks. This is where your sense of possibility grows, expanding your perception of what you can achieve or receive. This is the quiet transformation where your inner wealth begins shaping your outer life with increasing speed. This is how you step into a new rhythm, moving with intention instead of reactivity. This is where confidence becomes your baseline, setting the tone for every interaction and decision. This is the moment your frequency becomes identity, merging who you feel you are with the abundant life you are now ready to claim. Envision a world where every financial choice you make is guided not by fear or pressure, but by the calm certainty of someone who already feels wealthy. And in this video, you will uncover how this internal shift reshapes your instincts, sharpens your judgment, and leads you toward outcomes that align with abundance rather than survival. This is where decision-making transforms, because feeling rich removes the emotional urgency that normally clouds your clarity. This is how confidence becomes strategy, as your choices start reflecting long-term vision rather than short-term reaction. This is where your inner compass strengthens, guiding you toward opportunities that match your elevated self-concept. This is where hesitation fades, because abundance dissolves the fear of making the wrong move. This is where alignment sharpens, ensuring that what you choose supports the life you want to create rather than the life you are trying to escape. This is the moment your standards rise, pushing you to accept only what matches your worth. This is how discernment grows, teaching you to distinguish between genuine opportunities and distractions dressed as possibilities. This is where emotional steadiness becomes your advantage, allowing you to evaluate choices with clarity instead of impulse. This is where wealth thinking forms as you naturally prioritize investments, growth, and expansion over comfort-based decisions. This is how momentum builds, because every choice you make from richness reinforces the identity you're becoming. This is where fear-based patterns lose power, since wealth removes the emotional triggers that once controlled your actions. This is where boldness takes its place, empowering you to take steps that your old self avoided. This is the turning of the tide, where your decisions stop reflecting your current circumstances and begin reflecting your future reality. This is where opportunity selection becomes intuitive, because a wealthy inner state can sense what aligns with prosperity. This is how your life curve shifts, as better choices compound into better outcomes. This is where clarity turns into progress, guiding you steadily toward financial expansion. This is the quiet evolution, where each decision becomes evidence of your new identity. This is how life responds, mirroring the richness of the state you now use to navigate every path. Think of the moment when you realize that gratitude is not just a polite habit, but a powerful catalyst that amplifies the feeling of wealth. And in this video, you will discover how cultivating deep appreciation for what you already have can trigger a cascade of financial, emotional, and creative breakthroughs that make abundance inevitable. This is where awareness deepens, because gratitude shifts your focus from scarcity to possibility. This is how perspective expands, as noticing the richness in small moments rewires your brain for more. This is where energy rises, allowing you to vibrate at a frequency that attracts prosperity. This is the subtle power of acknowledgement, where every feeling of thankfulness strengthens your internal wealth state. This is where resistance dissolves, because appreciation creates emotional space for opportunities to flow. This is the moment perception changes, making you sensitive to doors and pathways that were invisible before. This is how alignment grows, as gratitude harmonizes your thoughts, emotions, and actions with abundance. This is where inner contentment fuels expansion, because a mind grounded in thankfulness is naturally magnetic. This is where assumptions gain authority, reinforcing the belief that wealth is already present. This is the quiet miracle of recognition, as what you value internally begins to manifest externally. This is how emotional states dictate reality, showing that joy, ease, and gratitude are far more powerful than effort alone. This is where focus sharpens, guiding you to invest energy in what truly matters. This is how momentum compounds, because each act of appreciation builds the expectation of abundance. This is where generosity becomes natural, as a grateful heart opens channels for giving and receiving. This is the turning of internal tides, where scarcity is replaced by expectation. This is how consciousness expands, inviting more wealth, opportunities, and influence into your life. This is where trust grows, in the unseen forces that reward inner richness. This is how subtle shifts become tangible results, proving that gratitude is the emotional seed of financial transformation. This is where your reality begins to mirror your inner state, and the life you imagine starts to flow naturally toward you. Ask yourself what happens when the desires you hold for wealth are secretly opposed by the beliefs you carry. And in this video, you will learn how identifying and resolving these internal contradictions frees your financial energy, allowing you to feel rich naturally, while your external circumstances begin to align with your new state of being. This is where hidden conflicts surface, because most financial struggles are rooted in unrecognized mental tension. This is how awareness illuminates, revealing the subconscious beliefs that quietly sabotage abundance. This is where clarity pierces confusion, showing that wanting wealth while fearing it creates invisible resistance. This is where alignment begins, as you examine and reconcile conflicting thoughts and feelings about money. This is the moment contradictions lose their power, because conscious recognition dissolves unconscious sabotage. This is how self-honesty transforms, making it possible to genuinely embody wealth without inner friction. This is where confidence strengthens, as you release doubts that have long blocked your progress. This is how emotional harmony shapes reality, ensuring that your inner state no longer contradicts your financial intentions. This is where energy flows freely, allowing your thoughts, actions, and emotions to work in unison toward abundance. This is the turning point, where old fears about scarcity are replaced with certainty of provision. This is how decision-making elevates, as you start acting in ways fully aligned with your wealthy identity. This is where patience and persistence merge, because inner alignment reduces the need for desperate effort. This is the subtle revolution, where your mind finally works with you instead of against you. This is how opportunities accelerate, drawn naturally to a state free from contradiction. This is where assumptions gain power, reinforcing beliefs that consistently create results. This is the quiet transformation, where internal coherence manifests as tangible financial outcomes. This is where self-trust solidifies, making it easier to act with confidence in every situation. This is how inner peace becomes wealth's companion, guiding you to attract without forcing. This is where your financial story is rewritten, as harmony within replaces struggle outside, and the life you imagined begins to flow effortlessly. Consider the possibility that your inner state acts like a magnet, drawing people, situations, and resources that resonate with the version of you who already feels rich. And in this video, you will discover how embodying wealth before it arrives not only changes your perception but transforms your social and professional environment, naturally connecting you with allies, mentors, and opportunities that accelerate your financial growth. This is where magnetic energy ignites, because the feeling of abundance radiates signals that others intuitively respond to. This is how presence becomes influence, as your demeanor begins to reflect confidence, generosity, and clarity. This is where alignment strengthens, drawing people who share your level of vision and commitment. This is the moment your network expands, effortlessly attracting connections that were previously out of reach. This is where synchronicity emerges, as encounters, conversations, and collaborations begin to feel orchestrated. This is how reputation begins to grow, because people sense the inner wealth behind your actions. This is where subtle opportunities appear, often disguised as casual interactions or unexpected introductions. This is where discernment refines, allowing you to recognize which connections will multiply your success. This is how momentum compounds, as aligned relationships create pathways to new financial possibilities. This is where energy becomes currency, because your inner state determines the quality of exchanges you attract. This is the turning point, where luck and timing seem to favor you, yet it is the alignment within that orchestrates these outcomes. This is how emotional consistency fuels results, making your presence a beacon for abundant opportunities. This is where collaboration replaces competition, because those drawn to your energy naturally support your growth. This is how networks mirror identity, reflecting the richness you cultivate inside. This is the subtle leverage, where influence grows not from position but from emotional authority. This is how trust and credibility solidify, as people experience the consistency of your inner wealth. This is where momentum becomes inevitable, propelling you toward financial expansion. This is how your social ecosystem transforms, surrounding you with resources and alliances that match your elevated frequency. This is the quiet power of inner wealth, shaping the outer world in ways both visible and unseen. Now consider this. What if every seemingly random event in your life is actually a response to the wealth state you cultivate internally? And in this video you will learn how feeling rich before it manifests creates a bridge of incidents, subtle, synchronistic events that guide you toward opportunities, resources, and people perfectly aligned with your financial goals, making it feel as if the universe itself conspires in your favor. This is where patterns reveal themselves, because life begins to arrange circumstances that mirror the inner state you consistently maintain. This is how synchronicities become noticeable, as minor coincidences start to feel deliberate, signaling alignment with your desired reality. This is where timing and preparation converge, turning ordinary moments into pivotal openings for advancement. This is the turning point, where patience meets presence, and your attention becomes a tool for noticing opportunities. This is how momentum gathers, because consistent emotional wealth sends clear instructions to reality. This is where your intuition sharpens, helping you navigate these subtle pathways with precision. This is the moment your assumptions show their power, as the world reflects the frequency you hold. This is how small decisions compound, guided by the invisible bridge forming between imagination and reality. This is where external validation emerges, as the bridge of incidents begins to manifest tangible results. This is the quiet orchestration, where your inner state triggers experiences that feel destined, yet are entirely natural responses to your emotional alignment. This is how opportunity becomes visible, revealing doors that were once invisible to your previous state of consciousness. This is where resistance fades, because life begins to move in harmony with the person you are internally becoming. This is the subtle acceleration, as patterns converge to provide breakthroughs faster than you imagined. This is where belief and action synchronize, allowing your internal state to guide external movement effortlessly. This is how clarity turns into strategy, showing which steps are truly aligned with abundance. This is the turning of tides, as external life rearranges itself to mirror inner richness. This is where patience is rewarded, proving that timing always favors those who feel wealthy before results appear. This is how trust in the unseen solidifies, reinforcing faith in the invisible laws of manifestation. This is where your reality begins to respond, gracefully bending toward the frequency you now inhabit, making the impossible feel inevitable. Envision a world where your imagination is not merely a mental escape, but the most potent tool for shaping your financial destiny. And in this video, you will discover how deliberately using your imagination to feel wealthy now, before it physically appears, rewires your perceptions, activates opportunities, and reprograms your subconscious to act in alignment with abundance. This is where the mind's canvas opens, because imagination is the blueprint from which reality takes shape. This is how mental rehearsal becomes transformation, as vividly experiencing wealth internally prepares your emotions and decisions for its arrival. This is where visualization gains authority, turning abstract thought into a commanding frequency that life naturally aligns with. This is the turning point, when you realize that imagining wealth is not wishful thinking, but a form of internal engineering. This is how attention sharpens, guiding your focus toward experiences and solutions that support your imagined reality. This is where repetition solidifies belief, as consistent mental practice ingrains the state of abundance into your subconscious. This is how alignment deepens, synchronizing your emotions, thoughts, and actions with your financial intentions. This is the moment perception transforms, because your imagination trains your mind to recognize opportunities that match your inner state. This is how energy becomes directive, channeling your focus toward outcomes that resonate with your imagined wealth. This is where assumptions acquire power, reinforcing the expectation that your internal state is the precursor to external manifestation. This is the quiet shift, where imagination turns into lived experience before physical proof exists. This is how subtle actions become intentional, guided by the internal reality you consistently inhabit. This is where momentum emerges, as each imagined success triggers confidence and creativity in real-world decisions. This is how patience and trust integrate, because imagination keeps you anchored in expectation even before evidence appears. This is the point of empowerment, showing that you hold the keys to manifesting wealth through internal rehearsal. This is where resistance loses grip, as your imagination creates a state that your outer world must eventually mirror. This is the elevation of consciousness, where you act, think, and feel from a place already aligned with abundance. This is how reality bends gracefully, responding to the precise blueprint your imagination has laid out. This is where the bridge between desire and experience solidifies, making the life you imagine increasingly tangible and inevitable. Can you imagine entering a state so immersive that your mind and body feel as if your financial goals have already been achieved? And in this video, you will learn how to practice the state akin to sleep, SATS, specifically for money, using it to create vivid emotional experiences that impress your subconscious and align your reality with the wealth you feel internally. This is where the state begins, because SATS allows your mind to bypass resistance and communicate directly with your subconscious. This is how immersion amplifies results, as the combination of relaxation and imagination magnifies belief. This is where clarity sharpens, revealing the exact sensations, details, and emotions that signal already having. This is the moment transformation anchors, because feeling rich in SATs programs your subconscious to act as if abundance is real. This is where alignment becomes effortless, synchronizing inner feelings with outward possibilities. This is how repetition strengthens impact, reinforcing the assumption that wealth is your natural state. This is where subtle changes accumulate, altering your intuition, confidence, and decisions throughout daily life. This is how momentum grows, as each SAT session compounds the internal belief that drives external manifestation. This is where emotional resonance guides action, making choices that reflect your wealthy state. This is the turning point, because your subconscious begins to orchestrate situations that mirror your internal experience. This is where patience transforms into expectancy, allowing time to work while your mind remains fixed on abundance. This is how resistance melts away, as doubt is replaced by emotional certainty. This is where perception reshapes reality, teaching your eyes and mind to notice only those opportunities aligned with wealth. This is how consistency breeds results, turning brief internal exercises into long-term transformation. This is the subtle mastery, where your inner state begins directing external events with precision. This is where focus and relaxation coexist, making manifestation feel natural rather than forced. This is how faith becomes evidence, as repeated SAT sessions produce tangible financial signs. This is where imagination meets action, blending internal conviction with real-world movement. This is the point where wealth becomes inevitable, as the subconscious begins translating your inner state into external reality with unwavering fidelity. Suppose you discover that most financial struggles are not caused by lack of opportunity, but by unresolved emotional blocks and money-related trauma. And in this video, you will learn how to identify, release, and heal these hidden barriers so that feeling rich becomes natural, allowing wealth to flow without resistance and transforming both your mindset and your reality. This is where hidden wounds surface, because emotional patterns often dictate financial outcomes long before conscious thought intervenes. This is how awareness illuminates old conditioning, revealing beliefs and fears that have silently sabotaged your success. This is where healing begins, as you confront the emotional roots of scarcity and limitation. This is the turning point, when you realize that wealth is blocked not by circumstance but by unresolved feelings. This is where self-compassion takes the lead, creating a safe space for inner change. This is how resistance is dissolved as old pain loses its grip on your decision-making and perception. This is the moment clarity emerges, helping you understand why certain financial patterns have repeated for years. This is where identity shifts, as you release the subconscious narrative of lack and claim a new, abundant self-concept. This is how emotional freedom fuels action, allowing confident, aligned steps toward opportunities. This is where old fears are replaced with anticipation, trust, and expectation of wealth. This is how energy realigns, clearing blockages and restoring flow to both mind and body. This is where subtle cues become guidance, helping you spot opportunities that previously went unnoticed. This is how gratitude and release work together, amplifying abundance by letting go of limiting attachments. This is the quiet transformation, where emotional resilience becomes the foundation of financial growth. This is how momentum compounds, as healed energy opens doors previously closed by subconscious resistance. This is the point of empowerment, where internal alignment directly translates into external results. This is how inner peace reinforces wealth, stabilizing confidence and removing panic-driven decisions. This is where clarity and courage converge, enabling bold, aligned financial choices. This is the moment your reality responds to the newly freed, wealthy version of yourself, and the flow of abundance becomes natural, unstoppable, and inevitable. Envision a world where your inner sense of wealth radiates outward, transforming every word you speak, every gesture you make, and every interaction into an expression of abundance. And in this video, you will discover how feeling rich before it manifests elevates your confidence, sharpens your communication, and attracts opportunities and people who align with your new state of being. This is where presence takes form, because wealth is not just numbers but a posture, tone, and energy that others sense instantly. This is how self-assurance deepens, as your inner richness reinforces clarity and decisiveness in conversation. This is where subtle magnetism emerges, drawing people naturally toward your ideas, influence, and vision. This is the turning point, when confidence becomes effortless rather than rehearsed. This is how clarity sharpens, allowing you to express complex thoughts with poise and authority. This is where alignment strengthens, as your emotional state communicates authenticity before words are even spoken. This is the moment influence expands, because people respond to your internal state more than external claims. This is how intuition guides interactions, helping you navigate conversations and negotiations with precision. This is where emotional resonance becomes currency, enabling you to attract collaborators, clients, and partners effortlessly. This is how fear dissolves, as the internal feeling of wealth removes the need for approval or validation. This is where momentum compounds, because confident communication opens doors previously unnoticed. This is how perception shifts, as others begin to see you as capable, and aligned with abundance. This is where personal boundaries gain clarity, helping you maintain energy and focus in all interactions. This is the quiet transformation, as inner wealth naturally influences external presence. This is how authenticity becomes power, reinforcing trust and respect in every exchange. This is the point where alignment and action converge, guiding your words, gestures, and decisions with authority. This is where influence multiplies, attracting situations that mirror your internal abundance. This is how your confidence becomes contagious, subtly lifting the energy of those around you. This is where your outer reality mirrors your inner state, and the person who already feels wealthy begins to create experiences and connections that reflect the life they have imagined. Ask yourself what happens when you stop chasing wealth from a place of lack and instead embody it fully in the present moment. And in this video, you will discover how letting go of desperation transforms your energy, accelerates manifestation, and naturally attracts opportunities, resources, and people aligned with the abundance you already feel internally. This is where tension dissipates, because desperation compresses energy and blocks the flow of opportunity. This is how patience becomes potency, as releasing neediness allows natural momentum to take over. This is where clarity sharpens, making it easier to see paths that were hidden under anxious expectation. This is the turning point, when inner calm replaces frantic striving, and every action becomes deliberate rather than reactive. This is how magnetism grows, as the absence of desperation creates a magnetic pull that draws wealth toward you effortlessly. This is where alignment strengthens, because emotional ease signals to the universe that you are ready to receive without resistance. This is the moment power emerges, as confidence and certainty replace worry and fear. This is how discernment improves, enabling you to choose opportunities that truly match your identity. This is where energy becomes attractive, because people, situations, and resources naturally gravitate towards steady, abundant states. This is how subtle shifts produce visible results, as letting go of need allows life to orchestrate favorable circumstances. This is where trust deepens, reinforcing belief that wealth flows to those who embody it. This is how intention gains weight, as focused, calm expectation replaces desperation-fueled action. This is the quiet revolution, where inner stillness creates outer expansion. This is how momentum compounds, as a stable wealth state calls aligned events into your life more rapidly. This is where freedom flourishes, because release of tension clears space for abundance. This is how your presence transforms outcomes, as others respond to your composed and confident energy. This is the turning of tides, where manifestation begins to feel effortless and inevitable. This is where expectation becomes reality, because the inner state dictates the external world. This is the moment scarcity loses its grip, and the life you envision begins unfolding with grace, speed, and alignment. Envision a world where every thought, emotion, and physical space you occupy reflects the richness you feel inside. And in this video, you will discover how cultivating a wealth atmosphere, both mentally and externally, accelerates manifestation, strengthens confidence, and attracts opportunities that mirror the abundance you are already embodying. This is where environment meets consciousness, because your surroundings become a silent amplifier of your inner state. This is how mental clarity deepens, as a deliberately curated mindset reinforces abundance-focused thinking. This is where subtle signals transform, guiding your body language, choices, and energy to match the wealth you imagine. This is the turning point, when your inner atmosphere begins to influence every interaction, decision, and opportunity that enters your life. This is how consistency shapes reality, as habitual focus on abundance reprograms expectations and behavior. This is where emotional reinforcement strengthens, making it easier to maintain a wealthy state even under stress or uncertainty. This is the moment alignment takes root, syncing thoughts, feelings, and surroundings into a coherent wealth frequency. This is how presence gains power, because living in a rich mental and physical environment signals readiness for success. This is where momentum compounds, as each intentional shift attracts corresponding experiences. This is how attention shapes perception, teaching you to notice opportunities that match your inner wealth. This is where external reality mirrors internal belief, reflecting the richness cultivated in mind and heart. This is how visualization becomes tangible, as creating a rich mental atmosphere influences your tangible surroundings. This is where subconscious alignment occurs, reinforcing behaviors, choices, and instincts that support prosperity. This is the subtle leverage of internal design, where your perception, energy, and focus create a magnetic field for abundance. This is how inner confidence radiates outward, influencing every relationship, decision, and action with a wealth-informed clarity. This is the turning of tides, as scarcity loses its influence and abundance becomes the default setting. This is where empowerment solidifies, allowing you to navigate opportunities with certainty and ease. This is how it catches up with the internal richness you have intentionally fostered. This is the point where alignment transforms into results, and your life begins to reflect the wealth you feel before it even manifests. Think of the moment when you fully realize that belief is not a passive thought, but a powerful force that constructs your reality. And in this video, you will discover how strengthening the belief that you are already wealthy rewires your mind, amplifies your confidence, and sets into motion events and opportunities that mirror the state of abundance you feel internally. This is where conviction takes root, because the mind cannot distinguish between deeply held belief and actual experience. This is how assumptions acquire power, shaping decisions, perceptions, and reactions in alignment with prosperity. This is where identity solidifies, as belief becomes the lens through which all experiences are interpreted. This is the turning point, when inner certainty replaces doubt, creating emotional stability that attracts wealth effortlessly. This is how mental rehearsal becomes creation, as vividly held beliefs train your subconscious to act as if abundance is already present. This is where alignment deepens, connecting thoughts, emotions, and behaviors into a coherent wealth frequency. This is the moment momentum forms, as every action and choice flows from a foundation of unwavering belief. This is how energy amplifies, because sustained belief acts as a signal to the universe that you are ready to receive. This is where clarity sharpens, helping you discern opportunities that match your inner state of abundance. This is the subtle authority of inner knowing, as confidence grows naturally from internal conviction. This is where fear dissolves, leaving space for decisive action without hesitation. This is how perception transforms, because you start seeing wealth possibilities that were invisible under doubt. This is the quiet expansion, where belief quietly yet powerfully reshapes your entire financial landscape. This is how patterns realign, as old habits and limiting thoughts yield to confident assumptions. This is where expectation begins to command reality, guiding events, people, and resources toward alignment with your inner state. This is the point where internal certainty becomes external proof, as your life increasingly mirrors the belief you hold. This is how consistency solidifies transformation, turning belief into lived experience. This is where your financial trajectory changes permanently, and the wealth you feel inside naturally begins to manifest outside. This is the moment the impossible starts to bend, responding to the force of your unwavering belief in the richness that already exists within you. Envision a life where every daily action, decision, and ritual is consciously aligned with the state of abundance you feel internally. And in this video, you will discover how matching your habits to your wealth state magnifies results, accelerates manifestation, and creates a seamless flow between who you are and the financial reality you are destined to inhabit. This is where intention meets action, because habits are the bridge connecting inner state to external results. This is how consistency amplifies transformation, as small, aligned actions compound into monumental outcomes. This is where focus sharpens, allowing you to prioritize what serves the wealthy version of yourself. This is the turning point when repetition transforms belief into embodied identity, reinforcing the state of richness every day. This is how subtle shifts gain momentum, as tiny adjustments in behavior align your inner feelings with outward expression. This is where discipline becomes effortless, because actions flow naturally from the emotional experience of wealth. This is how awareness heightens, noticing which habits strengthen abundance and which reinforce scarcity. This is where embodiment takes center stage, as your lifestyle begins to reflect the inner richness you cultivate. This is the moment alignment deepens, syncing emotions, thoughts, and actions into a coherent wealth frequency. This is where energy multiplies, as focused habits generate powerful internal signals that draw opportunities. This is how emotional resonance becomes measurable, showing tangible results from consistent state-based action. This is where clarity guides choice, helping you act from intention rather than reaction. This is how internal momentum carries forward, transforming even ordinary routines into powerful manifestation tools. This is where abundance becomes habitual because daily practice reinforces the wealthy identity. This is the subtle yet unstoppable evolution, where internal state shapes behavior and behavior shapes reality. This is how alignment transforms decision-making, ensuring every step taken resonates with abundance. This is the point where inner consistency manifests externally, producing results that match the richness you feel. This is how identity and action merge, creating a life that mirrors your internal wealth. This is the moment transformation becomes inevitable, and the habits you practice daily accelerate the manifestation of the life you imagined, with clarity, certainty, and joy. Ask yourself what happens when impatience and doubt are removed from your financial journey. And in this video, you will discover how cultivating the feeling of wealth before it appears teaches you to trust the timing of life, overcome delays, and align with a natural flow that brings opportunities, resources, and breakthroughs exactly when they are meant to arrive. This is where patience gains power, because waiting becomes a productive and empowering state rather than frustration. This is how faith anchors reality, as belief in abundance steadies your mind despite temporary obstacles. This is where internal alignment strengthens, ensuring your emotions, thoughts, and actions remain consistent with the wealthy state you embody. This is the turning point, when delays stop feeling like setbacks and begin to feel like necessary preparation. This is how trust transforms tension, replacing worry with a confident expectation that life is orchestrating perfectly. This is where perception sharpens, allowing you to notice subtle signs and pathways that confirm your alignment. This is how inner stillness creates space for opportunities to enter without resistance or forcing. This is where momentum quietly builds, as consistent emotional wealth signals readiness to the universe. This is how clarity emerges, showing the next aligned steps to take when action is required. This is where doubt loses grip, because consistent feeling of abundance outweighs temporary uncertainty. This is the subtle orchestration, as every delay becomes a signal guiding you toward optimal timing. This is how patience compounds results, transforming seemingly slow progress into exponential growth. This is where expectation becomes effortless, because anticipation replaces anxiety. This is how resilience strengthens, teaching you to maintain alignment through temporary scarcity or setbacks. This is the quiet power of trust, where belief in unseen guidance shapes external outcomes. This is how delayed manifestation is actually preparation, allowing internal and external realities to synchronize perfectly. This is where internal calm dictates external events, and life begins to move in harmony with the wealthy state you embody. This is how abundance unfolds naturally, proving that trust and timing are integral parts of manifestation. This is the moment patience and wealth merge, creating a seamless flow from internal expectation to tangible financial reality. Consider the possibility that your life transforms not when money arrives, but when you fully live as if wealth is already yours. And in this video, you will discover how complete embodiment of abundance reshapes identity, decisions, relationships, and reality itself, making financial success inevitable as your inner state becomes the blueprint for every external experience. This is where transformation culminates. Because living in the feeling of wealth aligns every thought, action, and emotion with abundance. This is how identity solidifies, embedding the belief and emotional reality of richness into the very core of who you are. This is where every choice becomes aligned, as your internal state dictates decisions that naturally attract prosperity. This is the turning point, when doubt, hesitation, and scarcity lose all influence over your life. This is how confidence radiates, affecting interactions, negotiations, and opportunities in ways previously unimaginable. This is where alignment reaches mastery, merging thought, feeling, and action into a coherent frequency of abundance. This is how momentum becomes unstoppable, as external circumstances increasingly reflect the wealth you feel within. This is where synchronicity flourishes, with events, people, and opportunities appearing in perfect timing and alignment. This is the moment freedom emerges, freeing you from fear, lack, and reactive patterns that once constrained potential. This is how clarity guides action, ensuring every step supports the wealthy identity you now inhabit. This is where energy transforms reality, as the internal state you maintain begins shaping the material world effortlessly. This is how gratitude, focus, and expectation compound, creating tangible results that mirror your inner richness. This is where trust and patience converge, reinforcing the belief that abundance unfolds naturally when you live as already rich. This is the quiet yet profound evolution, where embodiment replaces effort and manifestation follows naturally. This is how personal power expands, because acting, thinking, and feeling wealthy creates a magnetic field for opportunities. This is the point of culmination, where inner identity and outer reality align perfectly. This is how living as already wealthy transforms every aspect of life, from relationships to career, from mindset to lifestyle. This is where the story of scarcity ends and the narrative of abundance begins in full expression. This is the moment where everything you imagined becomes tangible, as the life you have always desired unfolds in harmony with the wealth you already feel inside.